everybody, I'm Noémi from the Simple Begiknits podcast, and you're watching episode 5. I have a couple of really exciting projects to talk to you about today, so we'll get started. First off, what I'm wearing today. This is the long-awaited Meet Me at Midnight sweater. Let me stand up so we can get a full-on view. All right. I think I've been talking about this sweater since episode 1 of the podcast, when it was just the skeins that I had at that point. This is a pattern by Espace Tricot, and I got it as a kit from their online website. It is knit up in Moondrake Co. Fua in rose quartz, as well as blue sky fibers, wool stock lights in pink quartz, I believe. One's rose quartz and one's pink quartz. I'll link everything down below so it's less confusing. But this sweater is knit up in 3.25 millimeter needles and 2.75 millimeters for the ribbing. And so it took me quite a while to get it done, but I'm glad that it is finally ready for spring. I feel like this is the perfect spring sweater. It is really light and airy and breezy, but it still is warm. I chose to knit it with 3/4 length sleeves, and it is pretty cropped. Yep, I just thought that it would be a nice fit for the spring, given the colorway and the lightness of the fabric. The Fua is a 70% brushed cashmere and 30% superwash, a light fingering weight yarn, and the wool stock is in a fingering weight, I believe. So this sweater was definitely a labor of love and patience. As soon as we got into the stripe parts, it felt like it was very motivating to get from stripe to stripe to stripe. But once I ran out of the Fua and at the bottom of the body and the arms in the Highland wool, it got up much slower. It just felt like I wasn't making much progress, and it was tough. It was definitely tough to keep going on it, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy that I moved forward with it and I got it done just in time to enjoy it at least a little bit before the start of summer. So today's the perfect day for wearing the sweater right now. We have some really gusty wind, and it's not quite hot summer weather, but a little bit chilly, so I could comfortably wear this without a jacket outside, I would say. And yeah, I'm so proud of having completed it finally, and it definitely benefited from a solid blocking session. I was knitting this over Mother's Day weekend, and my mother-in-law looked at me, she's like, "Oh, are you making a sweater for somebody's kid?" Because it did look very, very small once it was before being blocked, but after blocking, I was able to get it with a little bit of, well, quite a bit of positive use, I would say. So I've got a couple of inches of ease under the armpits, and on either side, it fits quite loosely around my waist. I would prefer it to be a little looser around the arms, but it's not uncomfortable. I do need to maybe steam the little pin, the places where I had the pins in, because it's a little bit wonky, mostly on this sleeve. It's a little bit wonky here, but otherwise I think it's fitting quite nicely, and I'm really excited to have this in my wardrobe. But yeah, this is the Meet Me at Midnight sweater by Espace Tricot, and I'll have all the information about it down below. So my second and last finished object of this month, I guess. Was really exciting. In my last video, I mentioned wanting to knit the Kutar Tea by Sari Nordlund, and a fellow knitter commented that she'd looked up her profile and saw a new post about this camisole that was going out for testing soon. And so I went on Sari's Instagram and saw her post for the Sunset camisole and instantly fell in love and wanted it in my wardrobe. So I right away bought the yarn that Sari herself used in the in her sample, and waited patiently for the tester call to arrive. And the second it did, I applied, and I was chosen for my first test knit. So I finally finished it. This is the Sunset camisole by Sari Nordlund. I knit this in, I would say, about 3 weeks with, you know, some breaks here and there. And overall, I am so thrilled with the test knit experience and with the finished product. I love this fabric. This is knit in Durham Natura's Antigone in the colorway Mandarin. And this is, yeah, it's 100% linen. And this is the yarn that Sari used herself in the same colorway. I just loved this kind of, I don't know, like orange, like red. It's like a brick red type of color. It just plays differently depending on the light, and I absolutely love it. It has like a gorgeous kind of sheen to it, and the drape of the fabric is just like, it feels so breezy and perfect for summer, and I'm so excited for warmer days to just wear this out and about. And actually, Phoebe, the same person who suggested this pattern, she and I were chit-chatting a while after, and I mentioned maybe wanting to make this out of a dress next summer. I feel like the way this fits, the way it drapes, it's just so nice and flirty. I feel like as a midi length dress with the frill going down, kind of, I don't know how I would do the frill. Maybe like zigzag or wrapped around, I don't know. I have quite a bit of time to think about it, but I just feel like this would be such a gorgeous dress. It makes me, like, just the thought of it makes me want to go out dancing, which I don't really do, but I would if I had this as a dress. Everybody in the test knit group has been really helpful, and it's been so cool to watch the different colors and yarns that they've used, and to see everybody's Sunset camisoles come along. Yeah, so it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience at the beginning. This was my first test knit, and I didn't really know how to go about it in terms of what the etiquette is for test knitting. If you find a mistake, do you just point it out? Do you offer suggestions? Would that be rude? Or I don't know. I felt a little bit like a fish out of water, but I just went to one of our local yarn stores here in Ottawa and asked for some advice from the ladies who were working there, and they were both really kind and patient with me. And yeah, so I would say it was a wonderful experience. Everybody in the test knit group was really helpful, and if ever you do end up in this kind of situation, having some kind of question, feel free to either reach out to the designer personally, or even, yeah, ask help from friends who knit or women or workers at your local yarn store. It's been an experience that showed me just how kind the knitting community is, or can be, and I would love to try this again sometime. It was a blast, and I didn't quite mind the deadline, although when I started on the camisole, I was pretty close to finishing on this sweater, and I had a deadline set for myself for the sweater, which got pushed way to the side, just from sheer excitement of being picked from the testnet. I already had the yarn in stash by the time the call arrived and I was picked, so I was able to start on it right away. But that's fine. I'm happy with how quickly I finished both the camisole and the sweater, and it's not quite time to wear the camisole yet, but we should be getting a bit more of a heat wave in the coming weeks, so I'm sure I'll be wearing it plenty soon enough. So that's it for my finished objects, and yeah, let's move on to whips. It's always the same format, but for some reason I have to forget what it was. Anyway, let's move on to the whips. Both of the whips that I am working on at this time have very little progress made. I literally just finished blocking this sweater this morning and the camisole the day before. So I've been working on two other things, like maybe for a couple of days. And first up, this is the start of the back for the Zoe Zipper Dress by Sandnes Garn. And I had mentioned it in my last podcast, how intimidated I was because it was such a massive piece. And on 3mm, no, is it 3 millimeters? No, sorry, 3.5 millimeter needles, on 3.5 millimeter needles. And one thing I don't think I had realized at the time that I talked about it was that this is knit in fisherman's rib. But so one of my lovely subscribers again in the comments mentioned the Zoe Zipper sweater, and it just kind of got me excited about casting this project on, and I figured, hey, if it's going to take me a long time, I might as well start it now, work on it a little bit. I don't think I'll have it done by this winter. I'm not putting myself in a deadline for this one at all, but we'll see. I think it might be not this coming winter, but another year from now, kind of project. So might be seeing this one again and again and again. So the wool that I have been knitting this on, give me 1 second. The wool I chose for my Zoe Zipper Dress is Lana Grossa's Cashmere 16 Fine, I think. And it is in colorway 7. It is a sport weight. Where do we see this? Sport weight yarn made in Italy, and it is 80% virgin wool, 10% cashmere, and 10% polyamide. And so you'll see here it has quite a bit of stretch. It is, I don't know if it'll pick up. Yep, it is a, oh my goodness, there you go. It's a chainette type yarn. And I picked this kind of like taupe color. I figured to stick with a neutral color would be best for this project. And I picked up this yarn a bit on a whim, actually. I picked it up before I even knew what I was going to do with it. I was browsing at a yarn store and saw this on sale. So instead of $16.99 Canadian, it was $9.99 Canadian. So I was pretty stoked. So I, at the time, had picked up, I think about 5 balls of this yarn. And then when I got home, I kind of kicked myself a little bit and got 5 more. I got 5 more. So I have more than enough, I believe, to make the dress. And so we'll see. I don't know if I'm ready to make that commitment, but my plan for this dress is to make it a bit longer than what the pattern calls for. The dress in the book is shown to be about mid-thigh length, or just above the knee, and I'm thinking of making it more of a midi length dress, so about mid-shin, and I think it would just be like the most wonderful cocoon of a dress. This is my first time ever knitting. Ooh, sorry about the noise. This is my first time knitting in fisherman's rib, and when I realized that the pattern was in fisherman's rib, I got a little bit scared. I don't know if you watch her, but Amy from Knits here on YouTube has recently knit the oversized seasons cardigan by Ozetta, which is also knit in fisherman's rib, and I think it was a year-long project for her, and it looked quite daunting, but I decided to give it a go anyway, since I'm not worried about time constraints or wearing it by any particular date. And I love, love, love the way this looks, how stretchy and squishy the fabric is, and I'm just so excited to keep knitting on this. Like, I'm really enjoying the process of this more than I thought I would, actually. So I mean, I say that now while it's only like a couple inches long, but I don't think I'm going to mind knitting on this for quite some time. The combination of the yarn and the pattern has been really fun so far, and yeah, very enjoyable knit. So that's it for my Zoe Zipper dress. And next up, we have another Sari Nordlund pattern, and you, again, just cast this on last night. Obviously, this is the Kutar Tea. I say that jokingly because you can barely see what it is, but this is the beginning of the Kutar Tea by Sari Nordlund, and I'm knitting this in Malabrigo Sussurro, which is 50% mulberry silk, 25% is it merino? Yeah, 25% merino and 25% linen. I talked a little bit about this yarn last podcast when I first got it, and I had mentioned being like a little bit nervous about knitting with it. It was, I mean, at the time, it was the first time knitting with linen, although I did cast this on after the Sunset Camisole, and this is, with the wool content and the silk, is much softer than the Antigone, which I forgot to mention, but the Antigone was really joyful experience to knit with. It just kind of was very smooth, maybe a little bit splitty, but not too bad. Like, definitely not as splitty as, say, Sandnes Garn Double Sunday, but I enjoyed this quite a lot. And it was a really fun combination. Sorry, I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit here, but it was a really fun combination knitting between this, between the Sunset Camisole and the Meet Me at Midnight sweater. Because, so the Fuafua being, 70% brushed cashmere is just like the softest, dreamiest yarn. And so when I would stripe between the cashmere and the woolstock, the woolstock almost felt like rough, although it's not all that rustic. It is a little bit, but nothing like a let low be kind of yarn. But when I got to the part where it was just the woolstock, I was like, oh, it doesn't have like that softness that the cashmere had. But knitting on the camisole and then going back to the sweater, all of a sudden the woolstock felt like the softest, most like lush yarn. So it was an interesting kind of mind game, really, to be knitting. Not to say that this was rough or unpleasant. It was great to knit with. It was just a really funny comparison between the two. Anyway, back to Malabrigo Sussurro. I'd mentioned that I was a little nervous about knitting with this because it was the first time knitting with linen, and it doesn't quite have the stretch of like 100% wool yarn. But after knitting with the Antigone, this is just super luxe, super soft. You can tell that it's 50% silk. It just glides off your fingers and off your hands. I will say though, yeah, I think you can see it a little bit on camera. This is a very fibrous yarn. Lots of pieces of like flax kind of coming off, and so I don't know how it's all going to look at the end, how it's going to knit up and once it's washed. But it is a little bit curious. Like there's some like pretty long fibers here of like the flax just kind of coming off. So I'm not sure if I should just like pull those or what, or maybe just like pass a little shaver, like, you know, those like electric, I don't know, like deep pillars or something. I don't know if that would work, but otherwise it has a really nice sheen to it. It's almost like pearlescent, or what's that called? Mother of pearl? Yeah, almost like a mother of pearl kind of sheen to it. And I'm really loving how this lace design is coming up. I've only knit, I think, like 5 rows of the lace so far out of 60. So I've got a ways to go, but you know, so far so good. And the ribbed edges are all knit in a twisted rib, which I absolutely love the look of. I think it just looks very clean, and it's going to be a nice contrast with the lace. So that's it for my, yeah, I think that's it for my work in progress, basically. I'm looking forward to seeing this kind of knit up and seeing more and more of the lace pattern developing, and looking forward to being able to wear it too. But again, I think I will be able to get this done before the end of summer, but I'm not really in any rush at this point. I just want to enjoy the knitting time that I have and not feel too stressed after having not that I was stressed with the test knit, but after knitting on a deadline for both the Sunset Camisole and the Midnight Sweater, I'm looking forward to just having a bit of time to breathe while I knit and not being too worried about how much do I have to knit right now and how much do I have to get done. Yeah, so that's it. That's all for my whips. And so we'll move on to acquisitions. I don't really have much. I've not necessarily put myself on a yarn ban, but I do have quite a bit of yarn in stash. And the way I tend to proceed when I buy yarn is that I will only buy yarn if I have a project in mind for it already. And right now I have a lot of yarn in stash. All of it is accounted for. Some projects I want to get done sooner than others, so I don't think that I'll be buying any more yarn for quite some time, just so that I can get through the projects I have in mind and not kind of get sidetracked by new acquisitions. So I only have 1 yarn acquisition and 2 books, but I'll start with the yarn, and I'm so excited about this. This is the Rico Make It Tweed. And essentially it's a like lace weight yarn that has little tweedy bits in it. And it's, I mean, I'm sure you could hold it single, but essentially it's made to be held together with a thicker yarn. And as the knitted fabric progresses, it has little rainbow tweed specks throughout. So my son is a big fan of rainbow, and I wanted to make him a little sweater this winter in maybe more of a neutral color, but with little specks of rainbow tweed throughout. And so, which brings me to my next acquisition. I'm so excited! So this is A Knitter's Year by Witter Designs. And she's so beautiful. I had this on pre-order for quite some time, and so I'm glad to finally have it. The photos in this book are just absolutely stunning. Every pattern looks really enjoyable. And one thing I'm really excited about is that most of the patterns, I don't know that there are any patterns in fingering weight. I think most of them are DK or worsted weight with thicker needles. So it'll be a nice little break on my hands. There, let me see. Probably should have put a page, a bookmark on the page I wanted to set. But there is a little sweater I wanted to make for my son. Is it closer to the beginning? Aha! There we go. So I would love to make here this sweater, which is the Children's Urban Polar Sweater. So I think this would just look so cute with the tweed flex throughout. I think that'll be the first pattern that I cast on from this book. And another one that I'm looking forward to making at some point, if I can find it. Aha. Is this chunky like brioche stitch sweater. It is, oh, it's called the chunky brioche sweater. So there we go. There is a pattern for both the sweater and a cardigan. Chunky brioche jacket. There we go. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So this is she, the chunky brioche jacket. I cannot wait to have this in my wardrobe. Again, I'm not really in any rush to cast this on since summer is just about to start here in Canada, but it would be nice to have it in my wardrobe maybe sometime this winter or next. But like I said, not really in any rush. And yeah, so that's it for Knitters Here. And then my second acquisition for books is the Sandnes Garn Summer book or magazine. And I have a couple of patterns in here that I'm excited to knit. So I have a couple of balls of Mandarin Petite in stash. And so I was thinking of making, here, I have this linen slip over, or the Iris Camisole, as well as the lavender jacket. And it's just the perfect summer cardigan. I have more than enough to make this, and either the Iris Camisole or the linen slip over. So we'll see which one that I pick. But again, I think I'm not in too much of a rush right now. I have the t-shirt and the dress that I'm working on. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe after I'm done with the lace on the Kuutar t-shirt, I'll feel like having something a bit more intricate on the needles once I get to the stockinette part of this shirt. But for now, I'm really excited to see this develop. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I just wanted to do a bit of housekeeping before I go. It might be another little while until the next podcast episode. I've mentioned before how my husband and I recently moved to Ottawa. He started a new job here back in November, and I started mine in February. And since February, I've been in training at work, and I got about, I think, a month and a half left of training. And once that's done, we'll, be buying a house here and moving, and then we have a wedding to go to. So the next month or two are going to be quite hectic, and I don't know that I can commit to a monthly video for next month. But if you do want to see what I'm up to, I will be posting some project photo updates like every once in a while, maybe on my Instagram, so you can follow me there. And as soon as things calm down, I'll be back on track to hopefully uploading once a month on YouTube. I do absolutely love the community that we're building here. I feel so lucky to have the most wonderful subscribers, and I just love reading your comments and interacting with everybody and hearing your suggestions and what you're working on, and your thoughts, and comments. Every once in a while I'll ask questions asking for help on whatever issues I encounter on my patterns or not patterns, but on my finished objects or works in progress, and everybody's always so kind and encouraging in the comments and has really great suggestions. So thank you so much. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. I didn't really think that this channel would really grow too much. It just was something that I was doing for myself to just chit chat about what I was working on. I think I've mentioned it before, but I think I have one friend who knits and that's about it. So I wanted a space to just talk about what was going on with my knitting, and this space has just been a wonderful place for that. It's provided me with a lot of new knitting friends and encouragement, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.